I think we reached 46, right? I think page 46. Yeah. So, this excellence system, right, this excellence system most marvelous some individuals first, yeah, some individuals who are not so learned have entangled it in utter confusion, just like the tangled balbaza grass, right. So, what this is saying is verse 46, this excellent system, this kind of the system is the system of the the devoid of intrinsic reality, the system which is the devoid of the intrinsic reality, but then it operates, things operates there is the functionality of the things, there is the functionality of the things and events, right. So, the harmonious nature of the functionality of the things and the absence of intrinsic reality. So, this harmonious system, this system is called the excellent system, most marvelous, right, it is most marvelous. Some individuals who are not so learned, now here some individuals means, right, some individuals, that refers to the second verse refers to the earlier the scholars, the earlier Tibetan scholars, very earlier Tibetan scholars, those earlier Tibetan scholars who are not that learned, in presenting the doctrine of emptiness, the doctrine of the dependent origination, right. So, because they are not so learned in presenting the doctrine of the emptiness, have entangled it in utter confusion, have entangled it in utter confusion, have entangled it, what what entangled, this kind of their way of presenting the teachings, their way of presenting the doctrine of the teachings, right, the doctrine of the emptiness, the doctrine of the selflessness, has entangled the Buddha's teaching in confusion. They confuses the Buddha's teaching, just like the tangled balbaza grass, right. Balbaza grass, There is a two way of saying, right? What is balbaza grass? Balbaza grass is, can be found in India. There's one grass, there's one grass like the net, fishing net, the grass which joined each end, joining each end, like it's so it's like net, net, because the net is difficult to if you were asked to untie the nets, very difficult to untie. So similarly, they have make the Buddha's teaching so confusing. How they confuses the Buddha's teaching, right? How they confuses, how they make the Buddha's teaching so confusing, right? By these earlier great masters, the earlier masters. So Jizongaba was saying the Mesoscelenist writings, of the earlier Tibetan early Tibetan scholars, these writings are not in some way reliable. Why they are not reliable? Is because they are not so learned in presenting the teachings, presenting the doctrine of teachings through reason and through logic and through scriptural authority, quotation, right? Because now what are their view? What are their view? What were their view? So some they say everything, right? For example, if you ask this book, is this book existent? They say no. If this book non-existent, no. Right? So they assert the view which is free from assertions. I have no acceptance. The view of non-acceptance, the view of the non-acceptance of the things to be neither existence nor non-existence. There's this kind of assertions flourished, right? So this kind of statement, kind of view which is free from free from assertions, this very statement is not skillful in presenting the doctrine of emptiness, right? Then there is another view which then says ultimate truth, convention, ultimate truth, emptiness, or the ultimate truth is not phenomena, right? Because why these are not phenomena is, what they do say is, if they are phenomena, it should be the object of the mind. Therefore, phenomena is not the object of the mind. Then they citing the scriptural quotation of the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, right? What quotation they cite is, ultimate truth is not a phenomena because the mind is a conventional reality. So this is stated in Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life in the 9th chapter. So they believe, so they are not so learned in interpreting this statement in a right way. So therefore they have to assert ultimate truth is not a phenomena. This is number 2. Earlier, scholars, they assert these things. Number 3 is, they do say, oh, just because there is some kind, ultimate truth. Again, ultimate truth is both true existence, always, as well as eternal, permanent. So this is a kind of, this is a so this is the essence of the Buddha, right? The seed of the Buddha. So this is what we all sentient beings carry on within our mind. So this is third misinterpretation. The fourth view is, for example, the mere cessation of the thought processes, right? The mere cessation of the thought processes, that is ultimate truth, right? What happened is, what happened? Now, in this regard, we know, right? We know the definition of the mind, of the consciousness. What is the definition of the consciousness? So this is important, very important. What is the definition of the consciousness? Right. Luminous and the clarity and knowing, right? Awareness. Right. So this is the definition. Now, when defining the definition, etymology, when defining this, the luminous, when we say the luminous and the awareness is the nature of the mind. But then this understanding in the lower school, they do not accurately define. Only the Prasangika Madhyamika can give you the full information about this definition, right? And also through some kind of through reason we prove. Through reason we do prove that luminous and the cognitive is the very nature of the very nature of the mind, of the consciousness. But then, if we were being asked, can you prove it through the experience? How we are going to prove? How are we going to prove that it's, through experience? How do we know the luminous and the knowing? Through experience, right? Sometimes we are being taught, meditate on the mind. If we were being asked to meditate on this book, it's easy, right? Because this is something that we can see with our naked eyes. So we have some rough understanding, right, of this book. and meditation on the impermanence of this book, the selfless nature of this book, we can have some understanding, because something this we can see, we do see, right? If we were being asked, I have only just this one copy, can you make a one copy? Right, we have no printing here, right, for example, and then you check this, right, or for example, can you someone there's a store in the someone said, right, this book is selling, so you ask, can you please buy this book, right? But I give this book, you just check this book, right? So you see the cover and everything. Yes, now you have the image, you have something image, the book image. So this is what is called as generic image. With this generic image you are going to buy the book. Yeah, right. So therefore it is easy, right? That's not difficult, right? Something that we can see, but then when we are being asked to meditate on the conventional nature of the mind, relative nature of the mind, meditate on the relative nature of the mind, then how we are going to do? The experience proof, then this is what we done, right? All the past thoughts, because in many of the cases, right, our thoughts all the time, most of the time, run either into the past or chase after the objects and the events of the future, right? So always remain active, right? Our mind always remain at active pace. So we try to stop these thoughts processes, the thought which runs either into the past or into the future. We try to stop this thought, not focusing. It's like complete like blanking, emptying one's mind, right? Emptying one's mind, and then trying to be at the present moment, right? Trying to be at the present moment. What happens is, first we don't experience anything, then as we gain certain degree of stability, as we begin to gain certain degree of stability, we begin to experience the mere luminous nature, the experience nature. So this is how we define. We just the cognitive nature, we experience, because when we talk about the mind, it's just experience. It's beyond the form, right? Beyond the shape, color. It's just the experience nature. So we experience the mere luminous nature, the mere cognitive nature. But then what happens is, now here, this when we identify this luminous nature, we are mistaking it for ultimate truth. So the earliest scholars, they identified this to be the ultimate truth, but that is not the case. Luminous nature is not the ultimate. The cognitive nature is not the ultimate truth. This is just the relative truth, right? But then when we try to see the absence of the intrinsic of the mind itself, of the luminous nature itself, of the knowing nature itself, then we have come to the we have identified the ultimate truth of the mind. We have recognized the ultimate truth.
The absence of
the absence of the absence of the inherent, the existence of the mind, the luminous itself. It is only then we have identified the ultimate truth of the mind, right?
Can the same to be said for in Hatha Yoga Tantra? We talk about the clear light mind, and can the same be said only when one realizes the absence of inherent existence of the clear light mind?
Yeah.
One sees the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth.
Yeah, this is what we are talking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the same as negating the object.
Huh?
So that's the same as negating the object. When referring to negating the object.
Negating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. True existent mind, right? True existent the mind, the true existent luminous is what we are refuting, is what we are negating. When we are able to negate that, then the empty of the mind itself, the empty nature of the mind itself is established as a byproduct. Right? Then we have identified. Otherwise, in early, miscellaneous, writings, we do find just clarity nature is identified or recognized as the ultimate truth. So then keep on saying, oh, this is the unmistaken, claiming this is an unmistaken presentation of the doctrine of the emptiness according to the Nagarjuna system. So this is wrong, right? And then there is the fourth. Is it fifth or fourth? Then fifth one is what is called as non-conceptualization meditation, thoughtless state, non-conceptualization meditation, right? You are being, whether you have to stop all the thoughts, whether it be positive thoughts or whether it be negative thoughts. You have to stop all these thoughts, need to stop the thoughts forcibly, because what happens is both positive thoughts as well as negative thoughts is the root of the samsara, is the very root of samsara. Because whether you are bitten by a white dog or whether you are bitten by a black dog, you are inflicted with the same pain, regardless of how big the wound is, but still you do have inflicted, you are inflicted with pain, right? So this shows all the thoughts need to be stopped. So this thoughtless state, the mere the cessation, the forcibly cessation, the forcibly stoppage of the thoughts is the emptiness, right? And then, so this is all the few of the presentations by earlier scholars, Tibetan scholars, right? Jezongaba say, Master Zongaba say, if we Master Master Zongaba say, if we try to stop all the conceptual thoughts, right? If we try to stop all the conceptual thoughts, then many of that we are excusing ourselves. We are excusing ourselves, and we are excusing ourselves that we don't make any attempt to awaken ourselves. We don't make any kind of effort to transform ourselves. Because when we talk about the transformation, transformation, it's all about the thought processes, right? One need to reflect, one need to contemplate. Without going through the contemplation, without going through the reflection, there won't be any conviction. We won't have any conviction based experience. So we miss many of the wonderful qualities that we can extract from this life, right? So this is the Dzonghapa's say thought processes, reflection, hearing, reflection, meditation. All these three are necessary, in order to cultivate the conviction, experience. In order to cultivate the experience, we need to go through the reflection. In order to do the reflection, we need to hear, right? Without hearing, right from the beginning, we cannot do meditation, trying to remain at thoughtless states. If we try to make further effort, we almost become like dumb. This is this many early masters, they say, like as you are something, you are being lost, something scattered, you are scattered, something like this, because it makes your mind dull. Right? Because what is the nature of the mind? What is the function of the mind? We already discussed luminous and awareness or cognitive. If it is a cognitive, we are trying to stop the cognitive function of the mind. Not only in the thoughtless state meditation, we are forcibly trying to stop. If this happens, then we are crossed beyond the boundary, right? Crossed beyond the limitation. Then the limitation we are crossing beyond, and then as a result is then dumb would be the result, right? So that's another, fifth. So therefore, let's see. Therefore, this excellent system, most marvelous, some individuals, yes, because even not only the dependence, even within the many masters from Nalanda are accepted as a valid, because there are some writings. Some writings also may affect, right, those well-known masters from Nalanda, like Vikramshila, Nalanda, Vikramshila, Odanpuri. These are well-known, and especially the masters like Nagarjuna, Master Arya Nagarjuna, who is professed by Buddha himself, and also Master Asanga, which is also professed by Buddha Shakyamuni and other great masters, like there are 17 Nalindra masters, Buddha Palita, Buddha Palita, like Ashwagosha, Master Chandragiri, Haribhadra, Shanti Rakshita, Master Shanti Deva, Adisha, Dignak, Dharmagiri, so and so forth, right? So these masters are well accepted. So, but those who are are not well learned, so they pollute they polluted the Buddha's teaching. In what ways they pollute it? By explaining, presenting the doctrine of that Buddha's the teachings, Buddha's teaching, and especially the teaching on emptiness. They misinterpret in a different way. So therefore, have entangled Buddha's teaching in utter confusion. Right, utter confusion, just like the tangled balbaza grass. Once you have balbaza grass very difficult to untie. Right, there's a specific plant only available in India. One leading like net. The net when used to catch the fish. Or you used to catch not only fish, some animals, right, wild animals. So the specific net, this plant is like that net, all joined together. Very difficult to untie, this plant. So just like that, tangled balbaza grass. Seeing this situation, I stop with a multitude of efforts to follow after the learned ones and sought your intention again and again. Right? Seeing this situation, what kind of situation? The situation of the earlier masters' presentation of the teaching of the Buddha and the presentation of the doctrine of the emptiness and dependent origination as unreliable. So this situation. Seeing this situation, I stop. I stop with a multitude of efforts. So, through hearing, what kind of effort? The effort, multitude of effort. What kind of multitude of efforts? Through hearing, through reflecting, through meditation, and that is carried on by day and night. Right? By day and night, I stop in these activities. I stop in these engagements of hearing the Buddha's teaching, studying, reflecting, and then meditating day and night for a long period of time, to follow after the learned ones. Right? Then say, not all. Right? To follow after the learned ones, those who are very learned in presenting Buddha's teaching in a right way, presenting the doctrine of emptiness, the doctrine of dependent origination in a right way, and sought your intention again and again, and then try to sort your intention. What is your ultimate intention? I try to seek your ultimate intention, right? By relying on that, by relying on the authentic masters, qualified masters who are well learned, in presenting the teachings of the dependent origination and the emptiness in an unmistaken way. So this is what verse 48 is saying. At such, verse 47. Seeing this situation, I strove with multitude of efforts to follow after the learned ones. Right? The learned, and especially as I said, Nagarjuna. Right? Nagarjuna and the master Asanga. So when it comes to the presenting the Nagarjuna's teaching, and especially his works, mainly the sixth collection of reasoning, so that is Nagarjuna's, especially root wisdom. Nagarjuna's root wisdom is a meshless in presenting the doctrine of emptiness. And then the ornament of realization, by Buddha Maitreya. So that is the teaching which talks about the profound, not profound path, the extensive path. Right. So these are the one which expound on the doctrine of emptiness is the meshless. Ornament of realization by Buddha Maitreya is meshless in propounding, in expounding the extensive path, the extensive Mahayana path, right? Now, you say 48. At such times, as I studied the numerous works of both our own middle way and other schools, my mind become tormented ever more, constantly by a network of doubts. So while I'm trying to study, while I try to seek the intention of the Buddha by relying on the works of the many qualified learned masters, right? What happened is, in between, then what happened is, as I studied the numerous works of both our own middle way and other schools, my mind become tormented ever. My mind keep on tormenting. Tormented by what? By the network of doubts and confusions. 48, right? At such times, as I studied numerous works of both our school and other school means other school means here you say of our own middle way and other schools. Other school refers to is it refer to non-Buddhist school like
The lower schools, is it?
Oh, that's good. That's right. Yeah. At such times, as I studied the numerous works, of both our own middle way, our middle way and other schools. So there are two ways of interpreting and explaining this verse. Right. One is, one way of explaining is when I try to study my own system, my own philosophical system, school, which is Madhyamika, and other thoughts, that is lower schools. Because then, because of the variety of the opinions, because of the opinions, because of the because of the different assertions, because of the different assertions, and also the profundity of the knowledge of these masters, profundity of the knowledge of the masters. I do find a lot of goodness, the quality of goodness. I found a lot of many good qualities, and lot of good qualities which teaching on the dependent origination is the right one, which goes well with the intention of the Buddha. So my mind is tormented by such thinking. So this one explaining, right? Among the different masters, which masters presentation of the teaching of emptiness is the Buddha's final intention, Buddha's ultimate intention. My mind is tormented by the difficulty in identifying among the many great masters which one goes well with the Buddha's teaching, right? So this is one way of explaining. Another way of explaining is, now because the one that we discuss now looks little bit more better, because Jitsongapa, if you look at in one of the spiritual songs of Jitsongapa encouraged us to study not only the rough, he encouraged us to study more deeper, go into deep. If we study much deeper, then we do find many of the good qualities, that which is worthy of veneration, that is worthy of appreciation, right? So Jitsongapa is saying this. He encouraged. He's not encouraged. Oh, you do for just do the rough study. So not encouraged. He encouraged us to do more detailed study. So then you come to understand many of the profundity, right? Therefore, Jitsongapa in Lamrim, in the great stages of path to enlightenment, he praised Bhavaviveka. He praised Bhavaviveka as the complete qualified Pandita, Yongzo Pandita, fully blossomed Pandita. Why he said this? Because the uniqueness of the Prasangika Madhyamika, the profundity of the Prasangika Madhyamika, the some of the profundity emerges, some of the profundity of the Prasangika Madhyamika school emerges because of the Bhavaviveka. If the Bhavaviveka has not raised criticism, if Bhavaviveka has not raised criticism against the Prasangika Madhyamika, the Prasangika, many of the profundity, subtle profundity cannot emerge. So this is mainly due to Bhavaviveka's kindness, Bhaviveka's sharp criticism, like something like this. So I think from that perspective, Tsongkhapa encouraged us to study more in detail. From that perspective, it looked like then there are many qualities, many wonderful qualities that we can appreciate of. So these many qualities, wonderful qualities, all the wonderful teachings, Tsongkhapa says he find ever tormented. Which one the teaching which is the final intention of the Buddha? Which Panditas, the scholars, presentation of the teaching on the doctrine of the emptiness is the final intention of the Buddha? He find Tsongkhapa feels, say, his mind being tormented, constantly tormented. So this one is one way of explanation, right? Another way of explanation is Tsongkhapa, he say, "Oh, I've studied, I'm day by night, through hearing, through reflection, through meditation. I have studied many of the, all the almost systems of the lower schools. But then what happened is, because of the view, because of the differences of the view, differences of the philosophical system, many of the assertions also differs. Many of the assertions, their assertions also differs and varies, right? Because in the case of the lower school, everything is based on the findability of the things. All the assertions, the assertion of the path, assertions of the basis, the path, and the result is based on the findability of the things. No matter how much I investigate, no matter how much I studied, reflect, I don't gain any conviction in revealing the Buddha's intention, understanding Buddha's intention, coming to gain the conviction in the Buddha's teaching, because their way of explanation, their presentation is solely based on the findability of things, the things as having true essence, true intrinsic essence, nature. So from that perspective, my mind is tormented. let alone finding the ultimate intention of the Buddha by studying all these things. But my mind is tormented, ever tormented by the network of confusion, the doubt. You prefer which one? Earlier one is better, or the one that we just spoke now is better? Yeah, check. Okay. It's up to you. Now, verse 49. This one. The 16 minutes. My mind. Okay. Now 49. So 49 and 49 and 50 goes together, right? Because there is some connection, beautiful connection. The night lily grove of Nagarjuna's treatises. The night lily grove of Nagarjuna treatises. Nagarjuna, whom you professed. Chandra. Who's Chandra? Chandrakiti, Master Chandrakiti. No, not Chandrakiti. It's a full moon. Chandra means in India, in the Indian language, moon is called Chandra. Right, moon is called Chandra. Chandra, whose stainless wisdom orb is full, who glides freely across scripture space. Right. Now what is saying? Oh, yeah, Nagarjuna, yeah, we miss. Yeah, 49. Nagarjuna, whom you professed, would unravel your unaxled vehicle as it is, shunning extremes of existence and non-existence. Right? Now here, illuminated by the garlands of white lights. Now here, the night lily grove of Nagarjuna thesis 49. Nagarjuna thesis means Nagarjuna's, Master Nagarjuna's walks. Right. So Master Nagarjuna's walk, what kind of walk Master Nagarjuna composed? He composed the 6 collection of reasoning. All these 6 collection of reasonings talks about emptiness, the profound emptiness. Whereas Nagarjuna also composed the compendium of sutra, because the 6 collections of reasoning, are all Nagarjuna proof the validity of the emptiness, through reason and logic. Whereas now, because it comes into, they say in the root wisdom, in the Nagarjuna's root wisdom or fundamental wisdom, in this text he refuted, Nagarjuna refuted the ideas and the views of the lower schools. He refuted the ideas and the views, raised a criticism against the views of the lower schools. Right. So they say, now who are the disciple? The disciple of the that this text, he raised criticism toward the lower schools like Vabhishika, Sudharantika, right? Vabhishika, Sudharantika. But then in this text, he does not raise any criticism against the minority school. Why? He didn't raise any question. He didn't raise any criticism. Because the lower schools say, oh, the things are true existence, the absence of true existence. So this is Nagarjuna's creation. This is not the Buddha's teaching. His own self-creation. They say this. They are saying this. Through his scholarly pride, Nagarjuna is doing all these things. So they are saying this. Then Nagarjuna say, I am not doing all this. I am not doing these things. The presentation, the doctrine of emptiness, absence of true existence, is the authentic teaching of the Buddha. So as absence of true existence as emptiness is the authentic teaching of the Buddha. Nagarjuna then composed the Compendium of Sutra, in which Nagarjuna now cited Buddha's teaching, saying, citing all the Buddha's teaching, saying that emptiness, Buddha taught this and that, etc. Right? So, because around those time when Nagarjuna arrived, when Arya Nagarjuna arrived, on this earth, many of the lower schools almost, the tenet, widely flourished. Nagarjuna's, the Vabhishika, Swarandika, their system, school of thought has widely flourished. And mind only school thought, mind only school thought is on the verge of extinction. So there is no point for Nagarjuna to refute the mind only school, the view of mind only school, because it's on the on the verge of wiping away. So therefore, Arya Nagarjuna raised a criticism against the views of the lower schools, right? Like this. So 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 we call root wisdom. The root wisdom is the Arya Nagarjuna's one of the main text which explained on the emptiness. And when it comes to his precious garland talks about the extensive path. Now, what I would say is this the root wisdom, right? So usually, what do you think? Mahayana treatise and the Hinayana treatise, are they contradictory? Or there is some text which is both Mahayana text as well as Hinayana text? Huh? Are they completely contradictory? Huh? It's important to understand again. We talk about Hinayana, Mahayana, right? But then, what makes the difference? If you are being asked, now for example, right? Like Nagarjuna's, this is Nagarjuna's one of the main texts, which talks a great deal about emptiness. It's a matchless text when it comes to presenting the emptiness. So it's very important to understand, is this text Mahayana, Hinayana text or Mahayana text? Or we are going to say, oh, Nagarjuna is Hinayana, because his text is Hinayana. What do we say? Is this text Mahayana text or Hinayana text? Mahayana. How? No, you prove. Yeah, you prove right. How? How is it in Mahayana text? Because if you say, oh, it talks about emptiness, right? Then every teaching becomes Mahayana text. Almost all the teaching become Mahayana text. Almost all that Buddha's teaching become Mahayana text.
Specifically,
so that's very important.
Text talks about emptiness of phenomena. Emptiness of phenomena.
Emptiness of phenomena.
Right, and which Hinayana does not touch.
Emptiness of phenomena. Oh my goodness. First turning wheel of the wheel of Dharma. Buddha taught the first turning wheel of the Dharma. In the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, many of the phenomena are taught as empty of intrinsic reality, intrinsic existence, including the person, the self. So this first Hinayana, right? Hinayana Sutra. Not only Hinayana Sutra, the unique, the uncommon Hinayana Sutra. Right. Yeah, anyway, I will tell. There is a text which is both Hinayana and Mahayana. You don't wonder. You don't get surprised, right? But the unique, the uncommon Hinayana text, uncommon Hinayana Sutra, and the uncommon Mahayana Sutra, these are contradictory, right? Similarly, uncommon Hinayana treatise and uncommon Mahayana treatise, these are contradictory. There is no text which is both uncommon Hinayana treatise and uncommon Mahayana treatise. Now, if we take now here Nagarjuna's treatises, Arya Nagarjuna's treatises, the fundamental root wisdom. This fundamental root wisdom is what? Is Mahayana text. Mahayana, not only Mahayana, unique Mahayana text, unique, uncommon Mahayana text. Now, how do we say this is uncommon Mahayana text? Now, I give you the some idea, you follow up. Then through this, we really deepen our knowledge, and based on our knowledge, then we know how to practice. So practice starts from all these things. Because we don't say, oh, emptiness is taught. And all the teachings, almost all the Buddha's teaching talk about emptiness. Because it is a Mahayana text. Why it is Mahayana? In what ways this fundamental root wisdom, because of Mahayana text, is whether the text is the Mahayana text, uncommon Mahayana text, or uncommon Hinayana text, is mainly determined by the subject matter. If the subject matter is the presentation of the emptiness through multitudes of reason, the presentation of the emptiness through multitudes of reason, this text is a Mahayana text, because no uncommon, no Hinayana text, no uncommon Hinayana text talks about the presentation of the emptiness through multitudes of reason. Only the Mahayana texts do. Right? This is one thing. Another factor is any text, any Mahayana text, any text, when the subject matter is the extensive path, mainly the subject matter, principally explains about the extensive path. Extensive path means, now you understand, right? Extensive path means, in the text, when explaining the extensive path, means from the beginning, from the cultivation of the compassion, infinite compassion, up to attaining Buddhahood. If everything is explained in that text is the Mahayana, uncommon Mahayana text. Right? So, therefore, we now know, because this fundamental root wisdom explains about the present the emptiness through the multitude of the reason. So it is a Mahayana, uncommon Mahayana text. It is not a Hinayana, uncommon Hinayana text. Now, in the say, Nagarjuna's precious garland, right? Nagarjuna's precious garland, and also the Buddha Matriya's ornament of realization. These two texts are what? These, at least I would bring precious garland. Some kind of dispute. I will leave here, but ornament of realization, Buddha Matriya's ornament realization, the extensive path is taught as a principal subject matter, right? Beginning from the cultivation, how you awaken the Mahayana lineage, how one awaken the Mahayana lineage, up to the achieving the ways and the procedures of achieving enlightenment is given. So therefore, it is the uncommon ornament of realization composed by Buddha Matriya is the uncommon Mahayana text, right? So these are very, very important to understand. Then when you read the text, then we get some idea, right?
Can you give a quick sample of Hinayana text?
Hinayana text, Hinayana text. There is a specific, there is a specific text, there's a specific text. For example, like which talks about the five aggregates. Five aggregates. Say five aggregates, giving each of the different name. Form is like form is like water bubble. Feeling is like form is like something like I don't know, so and discrimination is like a mirage. Discrimination is like mirage. So right now I cannot remember all this. All the five aggregates are given the different names. Giving the different names, proving what these are proving is they are proving that all the five aggregates are empty of inherent existence, right? Empty of inherent existence. So the main point is in the Hinayana text, in the uncommon Hinayana text. In the uncommon Hinayana text, there are teachings which talks about emptiness. Teaching emptiness is not the unique of the Mahayana, right? Even in the Hinayana, now there is these five aggregates proving that they are empty of true existence is presented in that specific text, right? Specific text. A specific test taught for the Hinayana practitioner. There are some specific tests taught, for example, like the text that I cited now, right? And then also in the Hinayana, uncommon Hinayana text, we may feel, oh, some of the bodhisattva conduct are not, we may feel some of the bodhisattva conduct are not explained. It's not that. Some of the bodhisattvas conduct are even explained in the Hinayan text. Right? But the extensive, the extensive path beginning from the activation of the Buddha lineage, Buddha lineage up to the procedure for attaining enlightenment, this is not explained. This cannot be explained in the Hinayana, uncommon Hinayana text. Right? So that's different. And now 49, right? The Night Lily Grove or Nagarjuna treatises. Nagarjuna, whom you have professed. Nagarjuna, where, in which sutra Nagarjuna was professed? Drum beating sutra, Langas sutra, and then many sutras. Buddha professed. After 400 years after the passing away of Buddha professed, Master Nagarjuna coming onto this earth, to propagate the Mahayana teachings. Right? And then, yeah. So, in many of the sutras, Buddha professed, would unravel your unaxle vehicle, would unravel your unaxled vehicle as it is, right? So Buddha said, so Nagarjuna come into this world to interpret, to unravel the doctrine of emptiness. This doctrine of emptiness, to unravel the doctrine of emptiness or the doctrine of emptiness. So this doctrine of emptiness is freed from what? Is freed from the extreme of existence and non-existence. Right? 50. Yeah, 49. This is 49. Shunning extremes of existence and non-existence. What is the existence here? Extreme of existence and extreme. What are the extreme of existence and extreme of non-existence? Right? What? What are the extreme? What are the extreme of eternalism, or say existence, extreme of existence and the extreme of non-existence? What do we mean by right? Extreme of nihilism. What is extreme of nihilism? What is extreme of eternalism? You guys need to raise more questions. We discussed this over the times.
The extreme of nihilism is non-existence of cause and effect, non-existence of next life and all that.
Now you can say like this, but here for the extreme of existence means true existence. Yeah, true existence. Extreme of non-existence here in this verse refers to denying non-existence of the relative truth. Non-existence of the relative truth is the extreme of nihilism, right? Why it is extreme of nihilism? Extreme of nihilism because the relative truth does exist. If the relative truth does exist, if you underestimate it, this is extreme of nihilism. If something exists, no, if something does not exist, if something which does not exist, if you believe in the exist, then that is overestimate. Something exists, you deny that, so that is the underestimate. If something does not exist, if you believe it to be exist, that is overestimate. Right? Now, true existence exists. True existence does exist, right? No?
True existence does not exist.
No exist. But the mind or grasping, but the mind believing in true existence, that exists, right?
Right.
Hmm?
Yeah. The mind
Believe in true existence, they exist, right?
Yeah, the mind mistakenly
Yeah, that's why I'm.
the
Yeah.
existence exists, but it does not exist in reality.
Right. So this book is impermanent, right?
Mm-hmm.
This book is impermanent. If you believe this book is non-impermanent, this is what?
True existence.
Huh?
Or the extreme of existence.
Breathe exercise, do some breath exercise. This is then, if this book is impermanent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you believe this book to be non-impermanent, not impermanent, what is this? What is that view?
The extreme of existence.
Huh?
Extreme of existence or permanent. Or externalism.
We become then good lawyer, very professional lawyer. Huh? If this is impermanent, if we believe that this book is no longer impermanent, then that is the extreme of nihilism. If this book now, see, this book is, this book is not permanent. But if you believe this book to be permanent, then that's what? This book is not permanent. If you believe this book to be permanent, then that is extreme of absolutism, eternalism.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Overestimate. You are overestimating.
Mm-hmm.
In the early case, you are underestimating. Right. So anyway, right now, for example, another very important area. Sometimes these things very helpful. Sometimes we go to in the train, right? You go in the train, right? Sometimes we also travel by bus. We travel by train. When we travel by bus and train, we see the trees moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
The houses moving. So it's your eye consciousness, right? Your eye consciousness seeing the trees moving, because of the speeding, because of the speed, we see the trees moving, the houses, all this moving. So your eye consciousness is some kind of distorted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Distorted. How do we get rid of this? Because this is distorted mental state. How do we get rid of? Right. Also, some people are suffering from the hair falling, some due to some disease, hair falling. In reality, hair is not falling. again this is, the consciousness that you see the hairs falling is distorted. And then sometimes firecracker, right? Firecracker, when we do this, you see the fire, a circle of fire, but in reality there is no circle of fire. I get distorted, right? And then also when you go to the mountain, snowy mountain, if you wear the black glass, you see the color of the white, black, again distorted here. Again, sometimes when some people have jaundice, strong jaundice, and then everything they see as yellow color. And then some people have hallucination, right? They see things which does not exist. They hear things which does not exist. But it's all mental consciousness. It's a mental consciousness which sees all these things, right? Now, how to get rid of this? Now here we are dealing with page 50, right? Page 49. We are talking about extreme of eternalism, extreme of nihilism, right? So all this issue come from here. Whereas when we talk about the grasping, true existence, then we can reduce through the cultivation of the wisdom, right? Many of the for example, afflictions, right? Afflictions arises because there is a seed. There is some kind of seed within, right? So these afflictions can can dispel through cultivating the opposing force, right? Whereas when these things, the example like when the train moving, you see on a moving train, you see all these trees, all this moving. Sometimes you see everything yellow when you have a hike, jaundice, and also due to a hallucination, Alzheimer. Sometimes due to Alzheimer, you have this problem, and also in some cases, right, things like drugs. These things happen, seeing different things which does not exist. How do we get rid of these things? That's very important, right? Sometimes. Knowledge. Knowledge. So these things, you don't need to cultivate the opposing force, right?
Depending on some.
Right.
Yeah.
For example, when you are in the moving train, right? Moving train, you see the trees, the houses moving together along, right? If you don't like, houses, the houses and the trees moving together, moving along, then better get out from the train. That is the best solution, right? Otherwise, the other, can we totally remove these, distortions?
No.
Right.
We have acute example. We have the application.
Also, like sometimes we do see some people, for example, people died, right? Someone died, and then some people claiming, oh, I saw that person. Does that person saw really?
No.
Yes. It depends.
Then how to get rid of then? Then that means your eyes is some problem. your eyes is distorted. It's distorted mental state. So you don't want to hunt it by this thought. You need to get rid of. How to get rid of then?
Contemplating this person is dead. There's no way you can see it. appear in front of you. They can appear in front of you with their body.
But then we need to get rid of it or not. Need to get rid of it or not. This thought, because sometimes because people, some people having hallucination problem, right? So these are tormented by thoughts, hallucinating thoughts.
Yeah,
Right?
some are simple and not complicated, but some of them are really twisted.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen people that, and actually in front of my house there's this guy that lives on the street. He acts as if he's talking to somebody or fighting with somebody. Because his mind is so damaged.
Mm-hmm.
There's people with schizophrenia. There's different levels of schizophrenia. Some of them are, like you said, they listen, hear things. Some actually see things.
Mm-hmm.
Some other people don't perceive it. So it's depending on the person. But if it's if the I was just reading yesterday that some people perceive their mind is twisted because they perceive something permanent as
Mm-hmm.
permanent, and they perceive impermanence as impermanence.
Mm-hmm.
But most of us, we perceive impermanence as permanent and impermanent as permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And it depending on the level of the mind, how I'll say how damaged the mind is.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if we're traveling on the train, we know that we're actually moving. The trees are not moving.
Mm-hmm.
That type of knowledge is common knowledge, so we understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, and then in the street, there's people that they're really twisted their mind, that they look like they're talking to people or doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And then their mind, it's gone.
Mm-hmm. So this, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, right.
But also there's bipolar people. They are able to even out without simple medication. But it's mostly knowledge.
Yeah.
And I've seen many cases where they
So,
they're able to fix the problem. But some of them are.
I think, yeah, it also makes some sense. But mainly there are two mental states. There are two mental states, right? One is conceptual mental state. The distortion which is conceptual mental state. One is the distortion which is non-conceptual mental state. Right. Now, many of the conceptual mental state which is distorted conceptual mental thought. These things, in order to get rid of these thoughts, we need to cultivate the opposing force within. Now, those non-conceptual mental thoughts, the distorted non-conceptual mental thoughts. Now, these in some way maybe, but in most probably, in many cases, related with outside, right? Or now, for example, as I some people hair falling, what it has to do, the disease make. So the important thing is to cure the disease. Curing the disease is the method to remove these distortions. And also hallucination, all this, the cure is medication. In some way, in some cases, thought transformation may work, but in many cases medication works, because these are causes by what? The elements, some how to say, the factors, other factors which is not related with the mind, which is not caused by mind, the other factors, right? And then when we, as I when we're going through the train, so the best thing is to get down, right? If you don't want to see the things going. Just go traveling in train, and then the trees moving, and then trying to meditate, trying to meditate with closed eyes, and then trees not moving. Does not help. When you open your eyes, still moving. So many things are to do with the external thing. Whereas when we talk about the emotions, many of the emotions, especially positive emotions and negative emotions, it has to do with the distorted conceptual thoughts. So these are distorted conceptual thoughts. In order to reduce, the opposing force is to be cultivated. And then in some cases like hallucination, right, as I said, somebody say, I saw this ghost, something haunted. So this, in some cases, then it has to do with some spirit, something like, because we cannot see, does not mean things does not exist. Right now eye consciousness is very gross, there are much more subtle things which exist, which not necessarily need to see with our naked eyes, right? So then sometimes obstructors, we call interferences also create all these causes. So then, right, the medication, like in some cases puja, right, some prayers, ritual prayers, the prayers, so this work, in this work. But just train is moving and you are inside, you don't want to see the trees and the houses moving, and then on the other hand, you at the same time you don't want to see these trains and the houses moving. On the other hand, if you try to meditate or things, if you single pointedly trust, kind of doing meditation, that may the trees not move, may the houses and trees not move, try to see meditation. Won't that work? Because the problem is outside, not inside. In the case of conceptual thoughts, problem is inside, not outside. So there is some difference, right? Okay, then we are 6 now. Then we begin with 50 from next time.